And after several hours of heated discussion, the so-called expulsion law was passed in Israel's parliament, the Knesset, which would allow for the ouster of parliament members for inappropriate behavior by vote. Denise Wood explains.
The latest in a series of controversial bills, Israel's new expulsion law will allow members of the Israeli parliament to vote out their colleagues. The new legislation was passed with a vote of 62 to 47 and guarantees that lawmakers can vote out their peers for backing armed struggle against Israel or inciting racial hatred, if at least 90 members of the Knesset agree. The bill was originally proposed after 3 Arab MKs, including the controversial Joint List MK Hanin Zoabi, paid condolences to families of Palestinians who had attacked Israelis, which many claimed could be equated with supporting terror. The bill was passed after a heated battle in the parliament, and its final version states that at least 70 Knesset members, including at least 10 opposition members, may file a complaint with the Knesset Speaker against any lawmaker who meets the aforementioned criteria. The complaint must then be passed by the Knesset House Committee before being put to a vote by the MKs and eventually barring the MK in question if passed. The law has been met with a wide variety of reactions, with opposition leaders denouncing it as an anti-democratic move and an embarrassment, while coalition leaders have praised it as a safeguard against those who support terror.
And joining us is Israeli parliamentarian from the Zionist Union, Mr. Yossi Yona. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, welcome, Mirab.
First of all, Mr. Yona, do you support or oppose the law, and why?
Well, we opposed it because our first and most concern was Israeli democracy, and we thought that law proposal has a big potential of undermining our democracy. So, of course, all of us, and I speak on behalf of the members of the Zionist movement, appalled and fully disagree with the statements often heard in our parliament. But we separate the right of people to say, to express their views, and we protect that. And we, on the other hand, we object very much taking this right away from them. And this is why we actually oppose this law proposal.
And do you think the law will deter members of parliament who previously acted in certain ways?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to, to prophesize about the effect of this law. I think that it actually creates some kind of a threat over the head of members of parliament. But as I told you before, Merav, I'm very much concerned because you see, this law, the moment that it is implemented, it can be used tomorrow against Arabs, and tomorrow after against leftists, and tomorrow other against secular Jews, and so on and so forth and so on. And that, as I said before, it might be a real threat to Israeli democracy. We in the Zionist Union, we think that we should actually make sure to keep the kind of equilibrium between the characteristic of the state as being Jewish and its democratic character. And I'm very much afraid that this law undermines the kind of equilibrium that we have lived with so far, and I think successfully.
And there are some who say this will never actually get enough votes and be used. Do you believe the law is just a lot of talk?
Well, let me express my hope that it would never be used, but I don't know. But as I was saying before, the fact that there is such a threat is already, I think, not a threat against members of parliament, but it is a real threat against our democracy. And I also want to share with you my concern, what the world would think about us. We are taking much pride of our being the only democracy in the Middle East. And I want very much to keep the democratic character of the state. Of course, I would encourage very much the development of our democratic states in the region. But since we are priding ourselves and saying that we are the only democracy in the Middle East, at least so far, so we have to be very concerned and very worried that our uniqueness and that in this respect would not be compromised.
Mr. Yossi Yona, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mirab.
Meanwhile, Israel announced it is renewing diplomatic ties with